Now, let me understand something. So you're in a wrestling ring, and like you could reach through the ropes and touch the horse?
So the ropes were rope. They weren't wrestling ropes. They were actual ropes. They were very saggy. It was very makeshift. None of the wrestlers, I think, after the first match, we all kind of knew we weren't falling much to protect some of the words that we use, but we just kind of knew. We all looked at each other. Yeah, and we're not going to be taking too many crazy falls in this one. And yeah, there were horses. There was cattle. Smelled great.
What's going on, wrestling fans? It is I, Steve Fall, and welcome to 10 Count right here on Wrestling News Co. On today's edition, I'm talking to a man who has had countless calls in the wrestling and baseball business. It's Matt Stryker. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Learning that time is the most valuable commodity that we have. So thank you for sharing yours and your audiences with me. Thank you.
Well, it is an honor and a privilege to be talking to you today because seriously, you've done everything it feels like in wrestling and of course now on MLB Network as well. There's so much to talk about, so let's jump in right now. First off, let's ask you the simple question of where is the strangest place you've ever wrestled?
Physically, emotionally, mentally.
All the above.
Gosh, I guess it's all going to fall into the same category of some of these state fairs. It was a barn. There were horses. I mean, you could reach out. I don't even actually. Was that the place with mats? It's funny now they're all mine. There's one place where it was just mats, but I'll go with the barn where the horses were like right next to me, and it was appropriate because I think the match was probably horse.
Now, let me understand something. So you're in a wrestling ring, and like you could reach through the ropes and touch the horse?
So the ropes were rope. They weren't wrestling ropes. They were actual ropes. They were very saggy. It was very makeshift. None of the wrestlers, I think, after the first match, we all kind of knew we weren't falling much to protect some of the words that we use, but we just kind of knew. We all looked at each other. Yeah, and we're not going to be taking too many crazy falls in this one. And yeah, there were horses. There was cattle. Smelled great, but it was fun. You know, back then when you and I guess we'll talk about MLW, but it all comes full circle. When you have a passion for something and you're hungry for something, no matter where you are in your life, you will find the good in it. So I'm sitting here now at this point saying, wow, I think it was fantastic that I could reach out and touch a horse's ass. And at the time, I thought it was great. But if I sat here and lamented and bemoaned, what the heck, a horse's ass? What? Maybe I wouldn't be having this conversation with you. So maybe there's a lesson in the anecdote.
True. You know, every adventure we learn lessons on, and obviously you being able to touch a horse's ass has led you to here. So, so here we are. Though, obviously, the wrestling business is so important to so many people. So who or what inspired you to get into the wrestling business?
My father. It all goes back to my relationship with my father. And now that I myself, thank God, I'm a new father, I realize how important the relationships that we have in our lives are. Father figures, mother figures, just anyone that presents some type of parental positive image on you is important. So my father and I bonded over a lot of things. Two of those things are baseball and wrestling. So fast forward at this point in my life that I'm making my living on those things, it's not lost on me. So is my dad.
Oh man, I have 3 children. I have a baby, 1 year old. I have a son, 4, and I have a daughter who's 7. So I bring them with me when I go to wrestling events and travel around the world covering events. I try to bring them as much as I can, but then obviously putting a baby on a plane for 8 hours going to London is not a fun time for anybody.
Have you met my wife? But that's funny. My son is about to be 4 in January. My daughter just turned 2. So I'm going to lean on you for some advice. Maybe after we do this, we'll exchange information. I need some dad advice.
We can do it. We'll talk about Elf on the Shelf. We'll talk about all the good things that are happening in the holiday season, though, right now. But you mentioned MLW, and you are part of MLW right now, presenting a huge event coming out December 7th on pay-per-view in New York City, of all places. One shot. I'm pumped. You're pumped. We're all pumped. But how did you get involved with MLW in this huge event coming up? What can fans expect?
Well, it's a great question, and thank you for asking. I was involved with MLW. They're the first company from whom I've ever cashed a check, going back 20 plus years ago. And it gave me a start. And the great thing about MLW is that policy has not changed. What I love about MLW where we are now is the diversity in matches. You're not going to see the same wrestlers that you see everywhere else. Nothing against it. I mean, there's only a finite amount of wrestlers and places where we can work, but at MLW, you're going to get different wrestlers and different matches. And I think that's a major point. Outside of that, this particular event, I like it's unique. It's on a weeknight. It's Thursday on a very significant date in history, but still it's a weeknight. Holidays are coming. It gives people that feeling of something special. And I think that the league officials understand that as well. Those are some of the things that we can look forward to amongst the matches, which we could talk about all you want.
Yeah, because you make a good point, though, because it feels like Friday and Saturday, obviously, and Sunday are always the things. But when you have 10 shows on a Friday night, you're like, what am I supposed to watch? Is this one better? Like, is this one going to be what? How do I take my time? As you started the show off with, time is valuable. And you're trying to get me to figure out how to watch 6 things at once. I have a phone, I have a laptop, I have an iPad. I can kill on a TV. I can do 4 at the same time. I can't go beyond that, and it happens a lot.
Well, how much of that can we truly absorb? We're living in a time now where, yes, we do multitask and we second and third and fourth screen experience things, but how much can we really enjoy? And I think that the officials at MLW, first and foremost, they respect the fans' time. So also they want the fans to be able to sit down and enjoy this product. I'm a big foodie, and while I try to curtail red meat as I get older, if I'm going to have a good steak, I'm going to make sure that I can plan the day and the evening so that I can enjoy that steak. Otherwise, it'll be a waste of my time and money. And I think MLW is aware of things like that.
Yeah, that makes a good
Now I
point,
want
though.
steak.
I know. Now I'm hungry. I haven't eaten dinner yet. So and after this is done, I'll definitely go find a steak. So you've inspired this. So I'll blame you when my wife sees the bill and go, where'd you go? Why's the steak so expensive? That Striker told me I had to go do it, honey. So you can yell at him if you want, though. But it'll happen. Don't worry. She'll find you. That's weird to say. But no, there's so much happening though in professional wrestling. And my first big introduction to you, obviously, is the Matt Striker school teacher character that you portrayed on WWE TV. Now, how did you even end up in the WWE? Because this seems like a lot of people's dreams, and you were able to go there and achieve a dream maybe for you and some other people as well.
Yeah, it's still very surreal to me. And as, again, I'm at a point in my life where I'm starting to take account. You look back and it's all about that passion and that hustle and that want. I was a school teacher, teaching social studies in New York, and had an opportunity to go wrestle in Japan. And you don't say no to that. So I called in sick as opposed to calling in personal. And I went to wrestle in Japan, and lo and behold, a couple of students were ardent fans, and they came back when I came back and said, "I know who you are." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm your social studies teacher." No, I know who you are. And then, a whisper becomes a rumor, becomes around the world before it can become the truth. There's some saying like that. That's how it started. WWE, I was on their radar. It was actually Court Bauer, who's MLW. Wow. Yep, he was in there with Krista Joseph and Tommy Dreamer. And Court knew me from the beginning. So they said, let's give him a shot. It was just going to be a chance. I was in the news. They were just going to take advantage of it. I had wrestled Kurt Angle previously. And this time we went out there and it was just like, I'm a faith guy. I believe in things like that. It's just like there was magic that night. It was a special night in my hometown arena, and you just couldn't deny it. And they gave me a shot.
Wow. Again, opportunity, and just sometimes, luck will get us to places we want to be in life. And especially having the people obviously seeing you and supporting you and still supporting you today, though. And so you came in as a wrestler, then you were a manager, wrestler, commentary. Why so many hats? You were even a host as well. Like obviously you're really well spoken, but at the same time, why so many hats when you're pretty good at all the things? But like, are you trying to be good at just one thing really well?
Another good question. Wow, look at you. Jack of all trades, master of none. Remember, I'm coming into that world as a school teacher, so I learned how to learn. John Laurinaitis said that to me, and it actually made sense. So I only wanted to know every facet of the business. I was in love and enamored and passionate and hungry. We've been talking about it. So to get there and to just be a one-dimensional wrestler, that's a fool's errand. You'll be gone in a heartbeat. I'm not 6'2". There's really nothing special about me outside the fact that, yeah, maybe I can spin a yarn here or there, but I can make it look like I'm getting my ass handed to me. But beyond that, to learn the production side of it, to learn what the director does, to learn why that lighting gel has a purple thing over it and that one has, I learned it all, and it actually has all come to benefit me. I produced and directed for Impact Wrestling. I've run live events. I've done boxing. I've done lighting. I've done all kinds of things, all because of my interest that I took in the WWE machine.
Man, because yeah, it was amazing because I would see you come in with your sweater vests and wearing your very colorful tights. You stuck out. So that was always a good thing. And then, managing Big Daddy V, and then going from hosting backstage segments where we're on the WWE app. I remember that being a very big thing in the beginning. And that's how it's funny, it's personal stories. That's how I kind of got started, because I would tweet out things in the W Universe's Twitter account, which is just, whatever, a shell of itself. Someone actually ran that thing and cared about fans and found fans and retweeted them and put the things on the app. This is before Twitter, is X now and all that stuff. So really, I'd be sitting there during commercial breaks watching you backstage, and it seemed like everyone who wasn't on TV was getting grabbed to just, hey, what are you doing? Let's just spew some things for 2 minutes and then put it out there. Were those things ever planned out? Because it felt like they were just, whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah. So astute eye by you. The beauty of the app is that it really was improv theater, and you never knew who was coming. And one of the best compliments. So I used to listen to on the headsets, and you could hear a lot of channels they were opening. The best compliments I ever heard was Kevin Dunn say to Vince McMahon, "Don't worry, Stryker's there. He's got the chops." And once I heard that, it kind of empowered me a bit. And I remember there was a time where Vince hopped on the set live, and we just rolled. And he said something to disparaging towards, these announcers, we got to get rid of them. And I don't know what it was, but it just popped in my head. I was like, yeah, that Josh Matthews, man, he's really horrible. And afterwards, Vince pulled me aside. He's like, I love that stuff. That's good stuff. More organic. And you can see it now in the product. And I think MLW was the first to that. It's not scripted. It's not forced. It's not a storyline. It's just the wrestlers making the wrestling matter. So I think all that is part and parcel to what we're going to see a week from tonight at MLW.
Man, yeah, because I just remember watching those apps and being like, what is happening here? I don't know what's happening, but I love it, because it seemed like for so long, as you probably know, as you were working there, it felt like so long there was no competition, big competition that is. So WWE could just be like, we're going to put out anything we want and you'll watch, because there's nothing else to watch.
It's on television.
And it's on television. It's on USA. It's part of your being who you are. Monday night, show up here, that. And so obviously it's the backstage stuff on the app to me were like, oh, this is the people who aren't on TV are getting a chance, because this is where they're getting TV time, which was on the app. And now the app is just buy this and go to Peacock, and it's completely different. And obviously money is a reason why things keep changing constantly in wrestling. But you got any good Vince McMahon stories? That was a great one too. But what was your relationship like with him? Because obviously if he suddenly says something to you and pulls you aside, there must have been more conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you learn not to seek them out. When he has the time to come and tell you something that's pertinent to business or life, he will. But I think a lot of things I learned from Vince's relationship, I bring forward with me now to MLW. And especially it's because Vince was constantly in my ear as an announcer. And a lot of his mantras, his thought process, a lot of where his intent is embedded in my mind. So now I sit next to Joe Dombrowski, who I think for my money is pound for pound the best play-by-play guy out there. And I can sit next to him and I can almost hear Vince in my ear saying, "Good stuff, Joe. Damn it, that was good." I don't want to curse, but so when my broadcast partner is doing the things that I know are inherently at least correct in the mind of arguably the greatest promoter of all time, it goes back to the fact that the relationship, I paid attention the few times he dropped his pearls of wisdom. Most of the time, he's just a jovial guy. You got to remember, he's Vince McMahon. No one is ever going to be themselves around him. And it was the same thing with guys like John Cena, with The Undertaker. I always feel like I was never a threat, I'm not a threat to your job. I'm not a threat to beat you up. I'm just a dude that's around. And I felt that they kind of maybe showed a softer side of themselves, Vince especially. So I liked that.
It's weird in a way that you said you weren't a threat to like Undertaker and John Cena, because I have talked to older wrestlers who were in the same locker room as Hulk Hogan, and all they have is great things to say about Hulk Hogan. But then when you start talking to wrestlers who are higher up on the card, those attitudes change completely because they were threats to Hulk Hogan. So obviously your relationship with these individuals is completely different than another, I guess. Well, I don't want to disparage you at all, but like the former world champion trying to go neck and neck with John Cena.
The alley cat must have a different disposition than the house cat.
Yeah.
So you're 100% on point with that. Yes.
Yes, man. It got any good Big Daddy V memories, because when he went from, Mabel to Viscera to Big Daddy V, and he just showed his whole body. You're like, God damn, this guy's impressive.
Yeah.
Look at him. And then they added you to the package. Like, this is everything I wanted. So what was the pairing of you and Big Daddy V? How did that come together? And share me some nuggets from Big Daddy V, because I loved him.
First and foremost, a lot of the guys that had a good, gentle nature about them were some of the biggest guys out there. Kane was also a personal friend, just the sweetest, nicest guy in the world. Big Daddy V, sweetest, nicest guy in the world. But traveling with Big Daddy V, he was the kind of guy, he was very shy. He wanted to be left alone until he was ready to turn it on. You can't hide when you're that size. So when we would travel together, sometimes I would and I've said this in another interview, I feel his pain almost. It was just like, my God. And I'm riddled with social anxiety, and I can hide because, again, I could throw on a gray sweatshirt and look like I'm wearing right now, and I can hide. He can't do that. Couldn't do that. But I'm reminded of a spot where we wanted to do something where he would squash me. And I said, that would be so funny. You won't be able to see me. I'll tuck my arms in, the visual will be hilarious. And he said, well, have you ever had a man of my size on top of you? And I showed him a clip from MLW that I had done, bringing it back again. And I took a splash off of the ring post onto the floor on a table. And it was just brutal. It was early on in my career, and I had to pull it up to show it to him and a few of the other wrestlers, just to prove that, yeah, man, you can lay on me, you can hurt me. But to bring it full circle, I think that the fact that guys are willing to do things like that at places like MLW, it just goes to show that it goes back to the wrestling. We got a guy, Matthew Justice, if you've never seen him before. It's just like, are you human? Because you have to ask yourself the question. I've said this to Joe Dombrowski. If you're going to fight a guy in the street, you run into a Matthew Justice on the street, dude, what are you going to do to beat that guy up? You got to pray he's not an a-hole. You got to pray he's not trying to rob you or hit on your girl. You got to pray he's a good dude. So it's things like that I just, I take from guys like Big Daddy V and from Kane and just my experiences in MLW.
Man, so many great people have come out of MLW as well over the years too. Like it's an endless list. For so long, it was people would come, oh, you were in ECW or you were in WCW, and now it's not that at all. It's, oh, you came from MLW, you came from Defy, you came from Tokyo Joshi Pro, like you came from all these places that don't really have the TV exposure as a WWE, but when you show up, someone's like, who is this? And then they go backlogging for this person's history, and they discover everything about him. Like, who do you think is the biggest star to come out of MLW so far?
But you can't answer that question. I'm not gonna bite on that one, because what you're noticing though is that the pipeline, the proving ground, kind of ends at MLW. If you're going to come out with a buff and a shine on you and be really ready, you're going to have to pass through the metal of MLW. And you see it with guys like Jacob Fatu, with guys like Alexander Hammerstone. You can even see it in a guy like Alex Kane, who is coming up next. I don't think the world is ready for what Alex Kane can bring. So you see it all the time. I mean, look, Steve Corino passed through MLW, and I do a thing on social media. I do an immaculate grid. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yes, I am.
And I sat there and said, Steve Corino has been an ECW champion, an AWA champion, an MLW champion, an ROH champion. I was thinking to myself, have there been guys that have done this? So when you look at MLW's lore and history, especially now, you can't have today's talent pool without MLW. It's impossible.
This is very true. And hopefully they get more credit as time goes on because it feels like it is slowly coming, the credit for MLW, and I'm glad it is because you brought up Steve Corino. Now Steve Corino trains at the Performance Center and the WWE future WWE wrestlers. Where do you come from? MLW, ECW. Like he came through the ranks of learning from the best across the world, not just in one certain spot. And obviously, as you travel around the world, every crowd is different. There might be similarities, but there is a difference between crowds. And sometimes what worked yesterday is not going to work tomorrow.
That is a fantastic point, and I think MLW has been based out of Philadelphia for quite some time, but like a week from tonight on the 7th of December, we're coming to New York City. So while there are similarities, there are differences. But I think what allows MLW to stand up, and I'm not putting down any other company, it allows it to stand up is the attention to detail. So when you look at something like what would work in this town, wouldn't work in that town, psychology works in every town. And MLW wrestlers are very, very astute. And it's not, I don't think it's intentional. The fight, the styles make the fights, and the styles make a psychology that isn't insulting to the fan base. You see a guy like Tom Lawler. This is a legit ass kicker. UFC. Can you imagine what it's like to be Tom Lawler in the world? Everyone's either afraid of you or wants something from you. But now Tom Lawler is in this group with Mr. St. Laurent, with the World Titan Federation. Tom Lawler was having fun. Tom Lawler was out there with headbands, wearing pink shorts, dancing around. To me, that makes Tom Lawler even more scary than he's ever been. That's the kind of thing I like from MLW.
Yeah, no, I'm so excited for next week in New York City. There's going to be a huge event, and I'm just, again, MLW is just spreading its wings, and I can't wait to see what happens in 2024. But you've offered commentary for MLW, TNA, WWE. So the process going into this, each person, as you mentioned earlier, Vince McMahon was obviously in your ear, and the WWE. TNA, was someone in your ear? MLW is someone in your ear, or are they trusting you and your experience?
The Impact situation was maybe a miscommunication. I was under the assumption that I was going to call it as a sport, which I firmly believe it is. And then by the third weekend, it was like, make sure you mention the hashtag, the main event, and our Bendy's figures 5 times before we're even out of the first hour. I'm like, guys, come on. A lot of stuff we did in post-production, so it kind of just, I would conveniently leave it out and forget it, and then it would fall on D'Lo Brown to have to do it. But I just didn't want to compromise my credibility with the shilling or the, oh my God, that's so-and-so, like the indignant wrestling announcer is so passe. Today's viewer is so smarter than that.
Yeah.
So that was the thing. I love the Impact locker room and I love the wrestling. I did. With regards to MLW, no one is in my ear. And I think it's a testament to the fact of how good of a job Joe Dombrowski does. I let Joe drive and I'm a passenger. Occasionally, I'm going to turn a song on the radio that I like, but Joe and I like the same style of music, same food. He drives at a nice speed, so on and so forth. And I think that's why we don't hear a lot from our producers. And you know how it is. If something's overproduced these days, it's no good. If things are organic and left to breathe, it's nice, I think.
I agree. Perfect example, we'll talk about it right now, is CM Punk came back to the WWE. Last week I was in Chicago for Survivor Series, sponsored press conference. It was great. You got to hear all these people share their thoughts on CM Punk. But what was happening in the arena was Seth Rollins giving the double birds and freaking out, and Drew McIntyre storming off. And then the next day, both men, Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre, are on a house show loop, and they grab a microphone, they do their bits, and they pretty much clarified what they did was, hey, journalists out there, wrestling journalists, you don't have this story right at all. So it was like, okay, so CM Punk came back, that was planned. They're trying to tell us that Seth Rollins is actually really angry, and Drew McIntyre is really angry. So that wasn't well produced, because if it was overly produced, the camera would have been on Seth Rollins. Instead, it's my cell phone recording Seth Rollins. That stuff's not out there on WWE.com. So like the idea of setting up an angle but not putting it on TV as overly produced and allowing the fans to kind of make it for you is really what was exciting about this past weekend.
See how passionate you were right there? How you just relayed that and you were on a roll and you were passionate and you didn't have to search for words. They were all there and ready for you. That is the beauty of what pro wrestling can do. And to touch on the Punk, Rollins, McIntyre, the fans don't want to be insulted, but they do want to be entertained. Look, let's be adults here. We all know what this is. We know what pro wrestling is, and we go there knowing what it is, and we suspend our disbelief and we set our hard-earned money down because we want to be entertained. We don't want to be slapped in the face and disrespected. So, come December 7th, when you have a match like Satoshi Kojima, who you don't see anywhere ever, coming to New York to fight Tom Lawler, do you think you're going to be slapped in the face with insincere psychology, or do you think you're going to say, I'm glad I put my hard-earned money down for this. I was entertained.
Right.
For me, that's the most important thing. If you were entertained by the Punk Rollins controversy and you ran to your phone, then you're into it. You got it. But I will say this, a lot of the wrestlers today really want to be the wrestlers of yesterday. They want to be the kayfabe generation. They want to be making the towns. They want the head of scarves. It's not going to happen, guys. You have to make your own legacy. The MLW wrestlers don't want to be the wrestlers of yesterday. They want to be the wrestlers of today and tomorrow. That's the difference.
Yeah, it was what a crazy week and a crazy weekend in general, because it seemed like with CM Punk coming back, it opened up with this can of worms that fans, I don't know if you noticed, they're either like, I loved him in WWE, I hated him in AEW, I love him in WWE. It turns into like, and I always describe it as like, all right, I'm from Boston, okay? So I'm supposed to like the Red Sox. I'm supposed to hate the Yankees. Supposed to.
Sure.
And so
Right.
it's not even a decision of how I feel. It's a decision that I'm supposed to feel this way. And I think that's what's turned some wrestling fans a little crazy, where they freak out. A little crazy. They're passionate, and I will give them. They are passionate about how they feel and how they, like you or don't like you. But it's turned into a little bit of a craziness world. You're like, do you have real thoughts anymore? Or are you just like,
bing, bing, bing.
Or are you just going with the herd and being like, well, if they don't like them, then I don't like them.
Exactly, sir. Here we are, a wrestling conversation breaks out into a social commentary. Here we are in a world where having your own voice and your own thought, if it goes against a prevailing thought, it is put down. And while I understand protecting speech, I also understand the responsibility of words. I make my living as a commentator. So the fact that people are in any way, shape, or form involved because of CM Punk is good. They're talking. They're aware. Wrestling is alive and well. And I think it's a perfect time for MLW to put on this show right now, because there's an old saying, oh, watch out for so-and-so. He's got a short fuse. Well, you don't know when the fuse was lit. Right now, I think the fuse was lit a long time ago, and right about now, it's short. MLW, a week from tonight, is going to blow up. It's the perfect time. You got matches that people are going to be talking about. They're not going to be talking about the wrestler or how good his promo was, or I liked him back then. No, they're going to be talking about the matches and the wrestling. That's the difference.
And if I'm correct, we're gonna get, is this the third encounter of Jacob Fatu and Hammerstone? Like this is something that, like, if you go back and go online and look up the past matches, and I've interviewed Alexander, and we talked about it. He thinks those are his best matches ever. And now you're getting an opportunity again to see it live in New York City. Hello, like, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. Don't miss out.
And then you dive deeper into the mindset of the athlete. So understand, here are two guys that are poised for superstardom around the globe, right? We've talked about MLW puts you on the map. So here we go. Now they are tasked with not giving you the same song that they recorded the last time or the time before. They are artists that are forced now to create. They are also egos. Both of these guys have huge egos. Both of these guys think they're the next one that needs to go and be on the cover of Pro Wrestling Illustrated or so on. So you imagine what they're going to do. So to me, I think that's what makes this match special, is that each guy has to do something that they haven't done before. When you get out of your comfort zone, one of two things happen. Either you advance to the next level or you get hurt. You get injured and you tumble backwards and someone else takes your spot. So this is going to be fun.
You brought up injuries, though. What is your worst injury?
Mental, emotional, physical.
Physical.
physical. I guess the deformity would be a separated left shoulder. Depending on my muscle mass and my dexterity, my clavicles sit a little higher up. You've seen it. Guys with separated shoulders. You see it all the time, but sometimes mine is a little more shocking than others. It's about it, though. Thank God I've been very fortunate.
Good, good. I've heard some tales of cracked skulls in wrestling and not realizing it was like that, or you go out there and I think Tommy Dreamer had a great story years ago where he said he broke his neck in ECW and he walked to the hospital. And then he walked in, they were like, How did you end up in here? How did you walk here? You have a broken neck. And,
Adrenaline is a great drug.
yeah, until it wears off.
Exactly. But it goes back to that thing, you're saying a guy like Tommy Dreamer, ECW, walks with a broken neck. I was mentioning Matthew Justice and how you can fight these guys. New York, Philadelphia, a lot of these wrestlers, they take a walk up the street, they get a sandwich, they get a drink, whatever. I'm from New York, and where the Melrose Ballroom is, it's an okay place. Don't get me wrong, you can bring your kids, but after a certain time, you don't want to be around there, right? You're from Boston. Do you want to be in Southie at 2 a.m? You
no,
don't.
Thank you.
Okay, so you get the reference.
Yeah.
So you got guys like Matthew Justice, Jacob Fatu. Fatu's walking around Queens in flip-flops. You don't think someone's going to say something to him? Like, it's just going to be a funny thing that's going to go down on the 7th.
Oh my God. And so with MLW and WWE and TNA, what is the biggest match you actually supplied your voice for commentary-wise, that is?
The next one. That's the right answer. The next one, it's going to be Hammerstone Fatu. It's going to be Kojima Lawler. It's going to be anything with Janai Kai. If you haven't seen Janai Kai, please take 5 minutes out of your life and go and Google and YouTube Janai Kai. But I've been fortunate to lend my voice to Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. I've been fortunate to lend my voice to other moments, matches involving a buddy of mine. Low Key is a big part of my career. A lot of people will make the connection, but he's hugely influential in my career. I wouldn't be anything without Key. When he was in WWE's Cabal, lending my voice to some of that was also very important to me. The one thing that I read a lot of is sometimes some of the things to which I've lent my voice have raised the ire of people. I just want to let you know that that's my job. I'm not doing it purposefully. The Undertaker Shawn Michaels thing, I'm not going to say it's someone else tell me what to say, but it's someone else tell me what to say. A lot of the stuff that people don't care for, I'll take ownership of 40% of it, but please, 60% of it, give me some slack. I'm a decent guy. If you meet me in person, just give me 5 minutes to win you over.
Wow. So the internet's not being kind to you sometimes?
It's funny when I met my wife, she, everyone does a Google search when they find out what you do. And it's great and wonderful until it's have you read some of the negative press? And I said, there was a point in my career where all I ever read was negative. I didn't want to read. I said, because I had an experience on an indie where I met a fan, and the fan said to me, I hated you. I said, have we ever met? Did I just, no, I hated your character. We spent maybe 10 minutes talking, an autograph or whatever. And the person was like, you're actually a huge, like a nod of, and it struck me how many people out there must carry such resentment and vitriol. And it bothered me. I shouldn't give a crap, but it did. Yeah. So I kind of wanted it to be, better. Now it is what it is. What can I do? I know who I am, but if people want to believe I'm that guy, then God bless you. Kayfabe isn't dead yet.
No, it's not. I'll off camera, I'll share you a few crazy stories that people have come after me at these wrestling press conferences where they don't like my questions. I don't like your questions, Steve. You suck. You're like, excuse me? Excuse me? Calm down.
It's not real.
The
voice isn't real. Your cholesterol level is real. None of this is real.
Right. We're all having fun here. We're all trying to have fun here, though. But, before we wrap up, though, I want to ask what was your feeling going into WrestleMania as the new breed taking on the ECW originals? Because heading into this matchup, we're all expecting, thumbtacks, fire, death, and destruction. We got that on Tuesday on ECW. Yeah, we got that later on, and I was like scratching my head watching it. Why didn't this happen at WrestleMania? Was there a consensus being like, don't do that at WrestleMania because it might take away from other events that are going to happen?
So you're doing what my son is starting to do, which is ask a question. You already know the answer. Yeah, of course. I don't recall the order, but I believe we were either right before Undertaker and Batista? I think so. And our time had gotten cut right before we went through the curtain, actually. But for me, it was surreal on two different levels. One, first and foremost, is my father was home watching, and I knew he was watching. And it meant a lot. Secondly, that was Tommy, Sandman, and Sabu's first and I believe only WrestleManias. Rob had done a few and would go on to. Tommy's family was there. His wife and daughters were there. So to share that with them was huge. If you look, there's a great picture of those four guys victorious. All their hands are raised. Scott Armstrong's there. Look in the left-hand corner. You see me laying on the apron with my leg hanging off. I made sure I wanted, if there's going to be a picture, I want to be in it somehow, some way, and I am. So that was great.
Oh man, yeah. I always loved your work, up and down, left and right, all organizations. So you can give me the $50 after this when we're done for saying that. Though, just kidding. Though, seriously though, it has been an honor and a privilege talking to you today about MLW, the past, the present, the future, strange places, worst injuries. Again, I don't think people give you enough credit that you deserve, and I want everyone to know that, the words that you were spewing out on commentary, either in TNA or WWE or MLW, they affected me and affected many fans because you seemed very well educated versus earlier you were bringing up, I used to joke about it when I was a kid, and you'd hear JR and Jerry Lawler, which I absolutely love. So don't yell at me. But they would say, like, on a night when Stone Cold's gonna fuck, and they would all night long tell you this. And I know it's keep you watching. I get it. But at the same time, you supplying your voice, adding something different to what we were all used to, it was a breath of fresh air. So I just want to say thank you for that.
I appreciate it. It's not lost on me. You said something that I've been doing this 25 years, and I've heard something new here tonight is that it affected you. I've heard other entertained or affected is a good word. So let me return serve to say to you, with all of the quote unquote bastard journalism that's out there in every facet of the world, on behalf of wrestlers, on behalf of the community, on behalf of the MLW locker room, thank you for bringing a legitimate focus to our sport. Thank you for asking the questions that others will say aren't correct. Because I will tell you this, there is no incorrect question. No wrestler worth their salt will ever hum and haw and not be able to answer a legitimate journalist's question with legitimate intent. So on behalf of the locker room, thank you, sir.
Well, my God, didn't expect this, but it is Christmas has come early, certainly for me. Hopefully my 3 kids also get me something for Christmas too, but we'll see. But again, it is an honor and a privilege talking to you today. Matt Stryker, I'm Steve Fall. This has been 10 Count. Have a great day. MLW, folks. Don't miss it. New York City, December 7th. Thursday night, baby. Let's do something nice on Thursday. Thirsty Thursday, Body Slam Thursday. Let's make it happen, folks. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.